Alright guys, we are back with another treasure map teams breakdown video. I know we didn't get one done last month. That's because, like I said, I've been having a lot of stuff going on in my personal life. It was affecting my streaming and recording schedule, but we're getting back into the routine. So if you've been following along with us on like Twitch, we're currently playing through Final Fantasy VIII and Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. For the first time both those games, so feel free to check out the Twitch channel for those playthroughs. And we're also going to be streaming the treasure map again this Wednesday, just like normal. Next week we're going to stream Kazuna Clash. So like I said, we're getting back to our streaming schedule, which is great. So with that in mind, I also got TM teams built for this treasure map. So I went ahead and I made 2 teams for both fights, for the boss fight and the intrusion fight, and we'll go over both of them. The reason I have 2 teams built is because I have one that requires Sanji and Reiju friend captains and one that doesn't. Now both teams don't require any of the treasure map batch, so you don't need Sanji and Reiju or either of the German 66 brothers. You don't need any of them, but one team does have, if you're able to find them as friend captains, by all means definitely use them for more points. If you can't find them as friend captains, we do have other teams. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and jump into it. So this is going to be the TM versus Kid, and we'll start with the Sanji and Reiju team first, and then we'll do the other team second. So first off, for the boss fight versus Big Mom, obviously recommended characters are new ones. Powerhouse Free Spirit Fighter, get all the cooldowns. And in Battle 2, one thing that's important here before we jump into like breaking down the battles is Battle 2 and Battle 3 on both fights, the enemy is only immune to delay. So that is important, so just keep that in the back of your mind. So you'll be able to debuff the enemy in different ways, so that means you'll be able to get other conditional buffs and stuff like that, or if you had delay through immunity. But the enemy themselves are only immune to delay, so just keep that in the back of your minds. So for Battle 2, we're fighting Strusen. Again, he's only immune to delay, like I mentioned. And he's going to change to either Strength, Dex, Quick, or Int type. He's going to bind your middle row for 10 turns, and he's going to inflict you with 2 turns of Special Reverse. Battle 3, the first half of Big Mom's life bar, she's Psy. The second half of Big Mom's life bar, she's Int. She has weakness to Powerhouse. Again, only immune to delay. So you get 8 turns Special Bind to everyone, and then empty, Strength, Dex, Quick, Int, G, Recovery, Tandem, Bomb, all those are changed to block slots. You're going to get 6 turns of attack down, and then there's like this chain debuff, the chain minimum and chain maximum debuffs. So you want to be between 2.5 and 3.25 unless you have ways to remove them. So we'll go over that for like both of the teams, but just keep that in mind. And you can't be on 2.5 and you can't be on 3.25. So you're looking around 2.75 or 3 would probably be like your normal ones that you could find. So just keep that in mind because it's like greater than or equal, less than or equal. Unless you have ways to remove it, like I was saying. But let's jump into it. So like I mentioned, this team here is going to require Sanji and Reiju as the friend captain. So let me switch over to the iPad real quick just so I can break everything down with you guys. And I'll let you know the starting states as well for all of them. So I do want to mention also before we jump in, for both of the teams that require Sanji and Reiju friend captains, I want to give a shout out to on X, the Japanese OPTC player, XYWPCRGOV726131. Super long username, but I want to give them a big shout out because of the 2 teams that require Sanji and Reiju are based off of theirs. I did make some changes and just modified them just to how I see fit. Just added in like change the supports around and swap some characters around based off of what I had in my character box. But I did start with theirs as a base. The 2 teams that don't require Sanji and Reiju I completely made myself. But I just want to make sure to give them like their credit since I used them as a starting base and then made some edits myself. So that being said, so versus Big Mom here, you want to start on Sanji, Luffy, and Wanda. Now once you get to stage 2, like I said, in stage 2, the enemy Strusen, he's going to go ahead and give you middle row bind for 10 turns, so it's going to be 7 after the sockets. And then he's going to give you 2 turns of cooldown. So that's where Wanda and Carrot come into play. Wanda and Carrot, they, in their crewmate ability, they completely evade special reverse. So what you want to do with Carrot and Wanda is you want to go ahead and super switch them. Now when you super switch them, for those of y'all who don't know, Fighter, Slasher, Striker, Cerebral, and Powerhouse, that gets double their attack, doubles their attack. And then you want to go ahead and use their special. So when you use their special, it's going to set all the enemy's defense to 0. And again, for this fight, the enemy, or all these fights, like I was saying, the enemy's only weak to, or only immune to delay. So you will get to set their defense to 0. So get used to hearing that with Wanda and Carrot, because that's a big component of a lot of these teams. So it'll set the enemy's defense to 0, and then it'll give these types here cooldown. All these classes, the same ones: Fighter, Slasher, Striker, Cerebral, Powerhouse gets 3 turns of cooldown. Every character on the team fits into those classes, and they'll get 3 turns, so they'll all be good to go. And it lets Wanda Carrot like bypass defense effects, which doesn't really matter for here. The same classes then get a slot buff of 2.5, and it rewinds their special also by 3 turns, which is important because you see their special at level 1 is 1 turn. So just keep that in the back of your mind. They'll be ready for when we get to stage 2. Now, additionally, what I would want to note about Wanda and Carrot is we put this Peckham support on here, or Mistum's support on them. This is not required, but it does help you get extra damage on the stage, and I'll explain why. Because the most important thing here is, you see, if you're inflicted with paralysis or special reverse, reverses only this character's special by 3 turns, removes their paralysis by 3 turns. Wanda and Carrot's already immune to special reverse, but this special will be triggered, the support effect will be triggered, because we want the next part where it reduces damage by 75% at the start of the next turn. That's important because you're going to use Sanji on this turn. Now when you use Sanji, here's what I'm trying to find, is to click on his special. So by using Sanji, see, he reduces crew's bind by 7 turns. That'll completely get rid of your bind that you're inflicted with on this stage. Damage, nullifications removed by 2 turns. If you have a orb buff, it will multiply your orb buff by 1.5. So by 1.5 times, so that'll multiply the orb buff we have from Wanda and Carrot. And if every type is on the crew, changes crew slots to recovery, further increases crew's attack based on damage reduction effect on the crew by 150%. So since we have that Mistum support, that will give us Rainbow Shield, so we'll get that attack buff from Sanji. It'll actually apply. So if you don't have Mistums, he's not required to like clear the stage. He just gives you free like extra damage on there. And then we're not meeting the requirements to have enough Straw Hats, so we don't have to worry about that bottom part there. But there will be one of every type on the crew once we get there, because we're not switching Sanji. So you see he's Psy. And then if you're looking at the component of the team, Luffy will be Dex. Carrot now will be Quick, but also Puddin's Quick. Bonnie's Int, and Kid is Strength. So we will have one of every type, and that is important for when we get to the next stage. So after doing all that, you can just go ahead and like clear the stage, because you'll have attack and orb buff. Your orb buff will be multiplied, and you'll get the buff from Mistums there. From Mistums and Sanji together will give you that buff, like I was saying, with the attack increase based off of your damage reduction. Now, once you get to the final stage, on stage 3, you want to go ahead and use Kid first. And let me just flip back over here just to refresh my memory on stage 3. So, actually, first, let me talk about when you first get to stage 3. When you first get to stage 3, remember, there's the chain shenanigans that Big Mom set up where you either have to be between 2.5 or under 3.25. And there's also the 8 turns of special bind. Well, again, we'll go back to Sanji and Reiji real quick. If you check out their captain ability down here, if every type is on the crew, reduces the duration of attack down above a certain chain effect by 5 turns. So that'll completely remove what Big Mom inflicts. She only does it for 3. And reduces special bind by 10. So both of those debuffs you don't have to worry about. So once you get into the stage, go ahead and use Kid first. So the reason why you want to use Kid first is he's going to remove the attack down. So the attack down duration, Kid goes ahead and removes that for you. And that's really all you get from him, because you can't get like the change your type slots, because all your slots are block anyway. Yeah, he boosts critical hit damage, but that's like that's whatever. Like that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Like the critical attack buff that Kid does, that's just so like secondary. So I should have clicked on it like here. So yeah, with Kid, sorry about that guys, I was checking on like both of the screens. You'll use him first just for the attack down duration. You don't need him to be like limit broke yet, because you get like the free mastery by doing treasure map. So he doesn't need like his potential abilities or stuff. It's up to you if y'all want to have him. And he doesn't need his other crewmate ability, because he does have a crewmate ability that reduces attack down by 1 turn, but his special removes it by 6 turns, and you're only inflicted with 6 turns of it. So you don't need to like limit break Kid going into the event. Just by the way, if there's any new players out there that need to hold on to like their mastery potions and stuff like that, Kid's fine as is, just with like sockets and stuff like that. So then you want to go ahead and swap Luffy to Law and use his special. Now you don't need to be you don't need one of every type anymore. You only needed that when starting the stage to remove those debuffs. And when using Sanji's special, so you don't need to be one of every type anymore. So you'll go ahead and like do their super switch, and you see here it's going to go ahead and change all slots, including block slots, into type slots, and it's going to boost the attack of all characters by 2.25. Go ahead and use Law's special. Now there is no bind inflicted on you, so you're not going to get the weakened status. But you'll go ahead and you will get the your attack buff will be increased by another 0.5, and you'll get a 3 times slot buff. So that'll make your attack buff to what? 2.75. Okay. So after you use Law, you'll want to go ahead and use Bonnie. And by the way, all the debuffs would be removed by now. After you use Kid and Luffy and Law, all debuffs are like gone, by the way. So you go ahead and use Bonnie next. Bonnie's special, let me just double check, see what it does, because I can't remember off the top of my head. Makes it easier to land perfects. If you land 3 perfect strikes this turn with Int, Free Spirit, Cerebral, you get further attack buffs, so just hit 3 perfects with those, because I think there is enough like free spirits on the team to like meet that requirement. So that there's no issue there. And Cerebral too, yeah. So you'll have enough to get like a further attack buff with Bonnie just by hitting perfects with actually, what is Luffy and Law's like dual uniform? No, there's not enough there for that. Well, either way, with Bonnie, you'll get the recovery and Simla slots. The Simla slots will help you get more damage. So that's why you want to go ahead and like use Bonnie there, at least to get the slot buffs. But Bonnie's not necessarily required. She's here because she's a high point booster and she fits like the requirements of getting one of every type. Pudding on the team is completely not needed. Pudding can be replaced with literally like any other character, because you will get one of every type when already without Pudding. She's a redundant one, but again, she's just there for points, so you can totally replace her if you want. I will say one thing about Bonnie though that is good for having her is this Vegapunk support that is key. With this support, when you're inflicted with attack down, which you are on the final stage, you get a 0.7 chain additive buff. So you just get like some free damage there, because remember, with Big Mom, she does have chain down, or a chain minimum one. You have to get over 2.5. So That's why that Vegapunk chain additive support's there. If you need any other help, like with the chain stuff, you could replace Pudding with someone who gives you like some kind of chain buff. Because remember, Sanji's going to remove the chain maximum one. And then lastly, you're just going to go ahead and then use Wanda Carrot again, because you see even on their plain one, or even on their level 1, it goes ahead and sets enemies' defense to 0. So with that, you're good to go. Should easily clear this team again. If you run into any problems with chain stuff, just replace Pudding with someone who's going to give you like some kind of chain bonus on the final stage, and you'll be good to go. So now we're going to flip over to the team that I have, where if you don't have Sanji and Pudding, or Sanji and Reiju, sorry about that. So let me just switch over here to my different steps for this team. So on this team, the friend captain is Luffy and Law. And the starting states that you want is you want to start on the friend captain Law, and your character, your Luffy Law, you want to start on Luffy. And it's very important that you want to stay in those, and I'll explain why when we get into it. So for stage 2, now you see your Luffy and Law has the Mistum support. This time it is required. And it's required because on stage 2 you're inflicted with that special reverse and bind. And Mistums will run back only their attached character special. You only need Luffy and Law on this one. So what you want to do is you're going to swap Luffy to Law after getting your special reverse. So Super Swap is going to give you the attack buff. And then the Super Swap's going to give you the attack buff, and the special is going to give you the orb buff and remove the bind. And on this time, since you're binded, you'll inflict the enemy with weakened status. So you only need Luffy and Law on this stage. And then you're off to stage 3. So once you get to stage 3, your Garp support is going to go ahead and trigger. And this Garp support is great because it automatically reduces the crew's special bind duration by 3. So that'll drop your special bind that everyone has to 5. And that's important because it's attached to Kobe. And with Kobe here, he has a crewmate ability where he reduces his special bind duration by 6 turns. So with the 6 and the 3, it becomes 9. So he'll fully be removed to special bind. Everyone else will still be on 5. And when you activate his special, I'm going to go over the whole thing, but just specifically down here, if is launched as a crewmate, reduces bind and special bind by 6 turns. So the important thing with Kobe here is that he'll remove everyone's special bind. But also by triggering his special, you're going to go ahead and it's going to inflict some damage to the enemy. But it'll boost Fighter, Striker, Cerebral character slot effects by 2.75. And the other stuff is if you're a captain, so you don't have to worry about that stuff. So you get the slot buff from Kobe, and all special bind will be removed. So after using Kobe, you want to go ahead and use page 1 here. So with page 1, he has this like really good special that it reduces damage taken by 80%, which helps you survive the death hit for 1 turn. And the chain stuff he won't handle there, or the first thing reduces chain lock multiplier, he won't handle that, but he'll set your chain multiplier for 1 turn based on number of times the crew used a special. And it'll be 3 times for 0 to 2. So Kobe and Luffy Law were used before. Because I don't know if it's based off of on this turn. In the database, it says for specials used this turn. So if it's this turn, Kobe would only be 1. If it's for the quest, Kobe and Luffy Law would be 2. So it would still only give you a chain lock of times 3. So he's perfect for it because he fits right there in the middle. And like I said, it lets you survive the death hit. By the way, to survive the death hit on the team, if you have Sanji and Reiju, when you use your Luffy and Law, you'll trigger the Brook support here that will reduce damage taken by 60%. So that'll help you survive the death hit there. But back to the team that doesn't require them. Page 1 also has this Black Maria support, It's just here only because like it's just going to give type buffs to Cerebral and Striker. So just remember that like he won't get it himself, but Kobe will and Bond Clay will when you change them to like Powerhouse Cerebral. So it's just important that the two of them will get more damage. With that being said, after you use page 1, you want to go ahead and use Zoro. So Zoro is here because with his verses, he's able to inflict increased damage taken. It's just free damage. And with his special, he's literally only here. Well, his verses buffs it. His special gives him increased damage taken, and his verses will buff it. But the only reason why Zoro is here is because he... what debuff did I put him on here to remove? This is the right fight, right? Hang on, let me just double check to see like what debuff did I put Zoro on here to remove. Oh, okay, it's further down in his thing. God, I missed it. Yeah, right down here. So Zoro inflicts damage to the enemy, and he's going to give them increased damage taken. His verses will buff the increased damage taken. And down here, if you have 3 or more Straw Hat Pirates, which this team does, you'll go ahead and reduce the crew's attack down duration by 7. So Zoro's there to remove attack down, and since you're using them after page 1, you won't get the chain buff, which is fine because it wouldn't work for this fight anyway. So Zoro's here for the attack down. If you don't have Zoro versus Lucci, because they're an anniversary legend, any character that removes 6 turns of attack down can go there. I just put him there because I got him for free with Rainbow Tavern medals, so I threw him on here since he was a booster and was like a good unit to like help like with like do damage and stuff like that. So then after Zoro, you want to go ahead and swap your friend captain Luffy, or swap your friend captain from Law to Luffy and then use their special. Now the reason why we need to keep that one on Law is because if you look at their individual captains, Law buffs attack by oh, that's their special. Law buffs the crew's attack by 4.75 and Luffy buffs crew attack by 4.5. So you just want to stay on Law until you switch to Luffy on the final stage and then use their special, so that way when you're going into their dual form, they have the better captain ability anyway, but for the stages before that, you're already having the better captain ability, if that makes sense. And of course, doing their super switch is going to give you the attack buff. Now, you're not going to get the orb buff because of you're not going to get the orb buff just because Kobe already applied an orb buff, but that's fine. Like, you still want to use their special anyway, just so you can get the buffed captain ability. And then, lastly, you want to use Bond Clay. So Bond Clay is just going to give you a full board of recovery slots, and he's going to give you a base attack boost, but most importantly, he's going to let you type and class change, and then give a super type. So it's up to you for the super type. You can do int or side depending on how you feel about your damage, but just change his classes to something like Cerebral Powerhouse since the enemy's weak to Powerhouse, and Kobe's orb buff, just as long as his other class is one of the ones that Kobe buffs, like for the orb buff, is fine. And then you're like good to go. It is important to note that Kobe's orb buff, just before like we wrap this one up, is Fighter, Striker, Cerebral. So Luffy and Law are Fighter. So 4 of your characters will have the orb buff. Page 1 and Zoro won't. So just note. So with that in mind, maybe you want to make Bond Clay like int then, since Kobe is Psy, and he'll have like the orb buff. So it's up to you, however you want to go about that way. So we'll go back now to the fight versus Kid here. Now this is requiring Sanji and Reiju as a friend captain. And before I break it down, let me get some water real quick. Throat's a little dry. Sorry, chat. Okay, sorry about that. So, for this one, Striker, Powerhouse, Cerebral, they get all the cooldowns. So for Battle 2, Killer is going to be First half is life bar psi, second half is life bar int. Again, like I mentioned, the delay immunity. And then going into the second stage, your crewmate is going to get silenced. So this is that like silence that like Kazuna Brook and I think like Halloween Uta remove, where like you can't like swipe or do any kind of swipe motion. So you can't like switch, do a special, anything like that. The enemy gets 5 turns of resilience and then 2 turns of various defensive effects, Rainbow Shield, Threshold, and Defense Up. For Battle 3, Kid's Life Bar, first half int, second half psi, delay immunity only, weak to Powerhouse, and you're going to get 5 turns your crewmates are bound, so that's going to be 2 turns after sockets. Empty Strength, Dex Recovery, Psi, Int, G, Recovery, Tandem, Bomb, all the block and bomb slots. 2 turns Nullify Damage. 3 turns of Defense, Threshold, Rainbow Shield. And type slots have damage reduction, and he gets 6 turns of Resilience. So everything here seems like really annoying and stuff like that, but it's not that hard to like... It actually wasn't too bad to like figure out a team for this one, so... That being said, let's go ahead and like break this down. So first things first, the ship is required. You do need the Dreadnought Saber, and it's because of its effect. It boosts HP 1.5, boosts Driven and Powerhouse characters attack 1.4, boosts damage dealt to enemies inflicted by poison by 1.2, and deals non-type damage to enemies at the end of the turn. So basically, the ship gets you around resilience for those of y'all who don't know. So the ship is required, and we use it for the team that doesn't have Sanji and Reiju as a friend captain either. So just keep that in mind. This ship is required for clearing this quest. So going into this fight, let me just pull up over here for stage 2. Now you want to start on Sanji, Law, and Nami for this fight. So when you go to stage, or on the very first stage on stage 1, go ahead and swap to Luffy. Now the reason why you want to swap him on stage 1 before you even go into stage 2 is, remember, stage 2 you have that silence. So go ahead and switch to Luffy. And this is why we're starting on Law, is because Frankie buffs Dex, Powerhouse, and Shooter characters. So start on Law, switch to Luffy so you swap him over to be in Dex. And with their Super Switch, remember, it goes ahead and gives everyone a matching slot. So that way, since he'll have like, Luffy and Law gives everyone a matching slot, just tap with like one character, probably one that's not buffed by like Frankie. So probably like Kid or something. And then you'll go on to like the next stage, because your ship's going to do end of turn damage to like get rid of the mobs there. So that way you're carrying in like all those orbs into stage 2. So once you're on stage 2, I say that, but like there was no orb change on stage 2, right? Yeah, okay, there's not. All right, yeah, I was about to say, please tell me I wasn't like lying there. So once you get to stage 2, you're only going to use Frankie's special here. So what Frankie does is his special super clutch for this. Reduces special charge time by 1 for everybody on the crew. Reduces Threshold and Rainbow Shield by 4 turns. Reduces Ship Bind by 7. He's going to give you a type affinity buff for Dex, Powerhouse, Shooter 2.75. And he adds non-tap, adds the tap time bonus for 5 turns, and minus 10 resistance down for Dex, Powerhouse, Shooter, and allows, yeah, that's just the other one. The other stuff on there doesn't really matter. So yeah, you'll use Frankie first. Don't use the super class yet or anything like that. Just use Frankie's special, and you're good to go. Now I know you're probably thinking like, well, that doesn't remove like the defense up. So there's 2 ways we can go about removing the defense up. First way is, if you see here in Frankie's like captain ability, way down here near the bottom, for any character on the crew with a barrier pierce as a potential ability, meets the requirement to activate it, reduces all enemies' defense up duration by 2 when landing a perfect strike. So Frankie can remove it with his, if you want to level up his barrier pierce, whatever. You won't have any HP cut in here, so you should have full HP. So if you hit a perfect with Frankie, GG. If you hit one with Pudding, she should remove it too, because she has Barrier Pierce also. She has a stupid one, but you would be in the requirement of it. So the only thing is, since Frankie only buffs our Powerhouse Shooters and Dex characters, I don't want to waste like a tap for them first to remove the defense, because that defense is there until you hit the perfect. So essentially, like, most of that attack of that character, it's just affected by the defense. It isn't going to do much. So that's why I have this Brook support on here. So if you don't have this Brook support, you can just remove it with Frankie's Captain ability as long as you hit it perfect with either Frankie or Pudding. However, if you have this Brook, you can worry about saving like Frankie and Pudding for later in your tapped chain, since they're actually like getting buffed by the Captain, etc. Because the Brook here, once the enemy activates defense up, reduces defense up by 2 at the start of next turn. So this Brook just completely removes it. So if you have them, you're good to go. If you don't have them, it's okay. You can still like get through it just as fine. So after clearing it with Frankie, it is important to note my Frankie's leveled up with a key, so his turn down or his cooldown is 13 instead of 14. I'm not sure if you need him with a key or not, so we'll go over that in a minute. So after you clear the stage, there's obviously going to be the end of the stage and the preemptive on the next stage. So there's 2 turns of cooldown for Frankie, so just keep that in the back of your mind that he's on a 2, because that will be important. So once you get to the 3rd stage, you want to swap to Reiju and use their special. So just a reminder of what Sanji and Reiju do. They reduce bind by 7, reduces all enemies. I'm blanking like hell. Reduces all enemies damage nullification by 2. So they're going to go ahead and get rid of your crewmate bind and the damage nullification. And they're going to give you the orb buff of 3.25. And I don't believe you meet... Yeah, you don't meet the requirements for like the other stuff on there, which is actually, are they a Straw Hat Pirate? I know that's probably a funny like thing to say, but yeah, they are. They are a Straw Hat Pirate. So I believe then, yeah, you should get, if you have 4 Straw Hat Pirates on the crew, applies weakened status. So yeah, you'll get the weakened status by Sanji and Reiju. I actually didn't realize that when I was looking at this team earlier, because yeah, you have 4 Straw Hats with Sanji, Reiju as 1, Frankie, Nami, Karina, and then Luffy Law. So yeah, so you'll get their weakened status too, which is even better damage. After using Sanji, Reiju, you'll want to swap to Karina and use her special. So just navigating like the stuff here. So with using Karina's special, first of all, when you switch to Karina, it's going to change the block slots and adjacent slots into G slots, which only some will, because you're getting swapped to block and bomb slots. So only some of them will be switched. And then the G slot multiplier is up higher, and you're going to get that base attack buff. But using Karina's special, she's going to reduce the crew's special charge time by 2, so there's 2 more on Frankie, so he'll have 4. So actually, you don't need to level him up with a key then, so that's important. We'll get to that in a minute. And she's going to reduce threshold and defense up by 6. So the most important thing there is that she's removing the defense up, by the way. And she's going to reduce the crew's attack down, which you're not like inflicted with. None of that stuff there. Threshold doesn't matter. And the slot buff you'd already have. So basically, Karina's just there because the swap is going to give you the base attack buff, and then she's going to remove that defense up. So Karina's really there. If you don't have Nami Karina, you just need someone to remove defense up for this turn specifically. So let me flip back over to the next step. You want to use Pudding next. So Pudding What do you use Pudding for on this team? I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah. Pudding gives you your attack buff. That's right. So she's going to give you an attack buff, but it's only for quick and int. So the most important, like, one to get the buff here on this team. I'm just like double checking like everything that I have like wrote down to make sure. Yeah. Pudding gives you your attack buff, and the attack buff, it's only for quick and int, but it's gonna buff Reiji, which is most important. I'm trying to see like what if Sanji launched a special this turn. Yeah, you already have like weakened status, so that part doesn't matter first. So Pudding's just going to give you the attack buff, and then lastly you're going to use Frankie's friend captain ability and or Frankie's superclass. So that's going to give him 10 turns of cooldown, and it reduces those defense effects by 2. We're going to get them like fully reduced, and it also gives you the tap timing like growth rate of 0.6 if you hit a perfect, and you're going to get super powerhouse characters, so that's really clutch to have that from Frankie. And then when you trigger Frankie's special, sorry chat, I need to check like one more thing. Did Sanji Reiju change slots? They do. They change block slots to recovery. Okay, because I was like, wait, how are we getting like our slots? So then all your slots will be recovery or G. That's where I was like tripping there. So yeah, Frankie's special, it's going to remove like the rest of those defensive abilities. You're going to get like the orb affinity, or color affinity. I mean, you're going to get the resistance down for Frankie. So you're going to be good to go there and like clear this stage, or have like all the debuffs removed on this stage, basically, so to speak. And then the key support on here also, by the way, for stage 2 is I put Soba Mask on Frankie just to give an attack buff to your crew for when you use them the first time. So you'll get this on stage 2, not on stage 3 when you use Frankie the second time. But again, yeah, no worries about the damage in this one. Like everything, this should be like easy to do and like easy to like take care of and stuff. Kid, I know we didn't say like what to use him for anything. Like he's literally only there just because again he's a point booster. So if you need more damage on like at all in some kind of capacity, remember your crewmates are silenced on turn 2, so you can't use anybody on turn 2. But if you need like extra damage on the final stage for whatever reason, or if there's a 3-turn buff you could trigger on stage 1 to carry into stage 2, you can replace Kid with somebody for that regards. But now let's go to the team where we don't have Sanji and Reiju as a friend captain. So for this one, your friend captain is going to be Carrot and Wanda, and they're really clutch for this one, just like they were on the other team that used them. So again, you see we're using the same ship, and Frankie is a captain again, just because he's great at removing these defensive abilities. You want to start on Luffy and as Carrot. So when you get to stage 2, you're going to use, remember the crewmates are silent, so you can only use your captains anyway. You're going to go ahead and use Frankie once, and then you're going to swap to Wanda and use her special. So you're going to swap to Wanda, so that way now, where's Carrot Wanda, just so I can like show y'all that. You're swapping to Wanda, so that way, yes, you get their super switch, so that way you can go ahead and get the attack buff. But also you're switching to Wanda, so when you then go into dual form, your Dex, so she's buffed, or they're buffed by Frankie. And you're going to get turn the enemy's defense to 0, and you're going to get the attack buff. Or the orb buff. So this way you'll have attack, orb, and color affinity buff, and the enemy will have their defense turned to 0. And with this Robin support on Frankie, this Robin support is not needed. It's only here just to give you extra damage. Once per quest, if you use your special, boost damage dealt to enemies affected with defense down by 1.3. So this Robin support, not needed. It's just to give you some free extra damage on stage 2. And oh, also you're using Frankie before you use Wand and Carrot, by the way, because remember Wand and Carrot get 3 turns of cooldown, so that'll help charge Frankie back for you to make sure you have him on the next stage after you use his super class. So once you get to stage 3, you're going to use this Sanji twice. So this Sanji is like clutch because yeah, he gives you like a chain boundary, but he also is going to go ahead and if Luffy's on the crew or supporting this character, which he is, reduces damage nullification barriers by 1 turn. So he has double special launch, so by using him twice, you can remove both turns of damage nullification that the enemy has. After you use Sanji, then you want to go ahead and use your Frankie's super class and special. So remember, his super class is going to give you that tap timing bonus, plus it's going to reduce his charge time by 10 and make Powerhouse into Super Powerhouse. When you use his special, that's going to get rid of all your defensive effects, except the enemy's defense buff. So it's going to get rid of your Threshold and Rainbow Shield. And he's going to give you the color affinity buff, as well as that resistance down. So then after you use Frankie, you'll go ahead and use Luffy next. So Luffy is going to go ahead, you don't want to switch or anything like that. You just want to use Luffy because if you switch, then he's going to go Law, then he's going to be Quick, and he won't be the right types to get buffed by Frankie. So just stay as Luffy, use his special just to go ahead and get the attack, or the, what is it? It's an orb buff, right? Yeah, get the orb buff from Luffy. Actually, small change there. Use Jinbei first. You want to use Jinbei because with Jinbei, you don't need to worry about him removing the defense effects. You're already going to have that stuff gone. He does damage. That's great. You're already going to have a chain boundary from Sanji, which is the reason why you want to use Jinbei after Sanji, because you see here, if you already have chain lock, Psy, Fighter, and Powerhouse characters get an attack buff of 2.5. So use Jinbei first, so that way then when you use Luffy second, Luffy will buff that attack buff to a 3 times attack buff and give you a 3 times orb buff. So Jinbei, then Luffy. Then you want to use Wanda and Carrot again. So Wanda and Carrot, because remember they just charge their own specials back. They'll be ready on like turn 1, or they'll be ready on level 1 of their special. Once you use their special, again, even at level 1, sets all enemies' defense to 0. So that'll help you bypass the defense up the enemy does. And it's important to note that this Sanji here has this support. This support is not needed. Again, this is only here for extra damage. This Zoro gives you a small conditional buff. Enemies, when you use his special, boost damage to enemies with defense down by 1.2. So just a little bit of free damage there. Your bind is getting removed, by the way, because it was only 2 turns after sockets. With this ace support, it removes 3 turns of bind when you're inflicted with it. So last thing that you want to do is you want to use Bond Clay last, so that way you can make sure like you're changing your orbs to the recovery orbs last, because remember, if you have type slots, like they do less damage here, and you just want to change Bond Clay to Powerhouse, and then it's up to you if you want them to be Psy or Int, because remember, half of Kid's life bar is Psy, half of it's Int, so just whichever like you think like you're struggling with, however you want to like do it. I believe he's Psy first, Int second, and your Jinbei and Sanji are Powerhouse Psy. So maybe you want to change him to Int and like kind of start off like using him like that way. So I'm probably going to change mine to like Int. But either way, he's just there for, he gives you the base attack buff, which is great. But yeah, it changes all your slots to recovery, and that way you can get another Powerhouse character on the team and make him like have like color affinity versus Kid. And that's it. Like that clears up this one. If there's any questions you guys have in the chat, or sorry, not in the chat. We're not on Twitch. If you guys have any questions about like units you could replace, if the supports, any supports are specifically needed or not needed, please feel free to let me know. Just to go over like a quick like summary for you guys. This team here needs Sanji and Reiju versus Big Mom. This team does not need Sanji and Reiju versus Big Mom. you would use Luffy Law as a friend captain. This team needs Sanji and Reiju as a friend captain versus Kid. This team does not need Sanji and Reiju versus Kid. It would need Wanda and Carrot as a friend captain. So again, if you guys have any questions or concerns, please feel free to let me know in the comments, and I'll gladly help y'all out. Treasure Map is starting early. Well, starting late Tuesday night, early Wednesday, depending on where y'all are in the world. And we'll be streaming it Tuesday around lunchtime on Eastern Standard Time, so 12, 1-ish. We're going to do a treasure map stream. So I hope to see you guys there. Again, if y'all have any questions or concerns, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I will do my best to help y'all out. So other than that, I hope y'all have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Thank y'all so much for joining me on our first Teams video back. So I'm really, really happy about that. And I hope you guys have an awesome one.